Hello everyone. Hope you can hear me clearly. I've got the mic at a different angle because I've changed the position of the other camera. Yeah. Welcome to my channel, Bonus Topics. My name is Josh, and today's bonus topic is on it's on a little thing called world building. This is one of my passions as a novice writer and a game master for tabletop RPGs. So one thing that's really useful to game masters, dungeon masters for D&D, things like that, and for storytellers of any brand is it's the practice of putting thought into a setting and trying to enhance the feeling of a world to make it feel more believable to the viewers, the readers, the audience, the players, whatever. So one of the first things that I'd like to share with you all about world building is kind of a basic method, a basic template that I use very often. I use it all the time when I world build. So for this, we are going to do, we're going to make a very simple example kind of setting, and I'm going to show you how it works. I'm going to switch to the other camera. Yes. So, as you might have caught on from the title, today's title is I forgot it actually. Yes. The key to good world building is to ask good questions. So this example world that we're going to make, I'm going to make it a very basic fantasy setting, right? Maybe you're a dungeon master for D&D and you don't want to use one of the pre-established settings that they already have in books you can buy. You want to make your own homebrew world. That's what it's called. This could also technically work. It could technically apply to maybe if you were writing a book for a very simple fantasy story, just establishing a few things. So what do I mean by asking good questions, right? Well, obviously the thing about many fictional stories is that they are, at least in one way or another, unlike our world, unlike Earth. So there's something you want to change, something you want to tweak. It could be a very core, fundamental facet of reality that you alter, which has an incredible domino effect throughout the whole of the world, and that can help create different situations, or it can be just a few things that you change. Yeah. But either way, asking good questions will help you to, after establishing those changes, figure out really good ways to make the story feel more real, more believable to your audience. So, the example I've decided upon is one very core, fundamental piece of our reality. So, let's imagine that we have a generic fantasy setting, kind of like D&D, except there is no gravity. Now, a fundamental change like this has so very many domino effects, like I was saying. And the expression of how you decide to have this rule in your world can change from one to the other, right? So if you imagine just by itself a world with no gravity, then that means there are no planets, because planets are pulled together by gravity, held firm, all of the things like that. Human beings wouldn't exist in the way that we know them because we exist supported by gravity. We walk on two legs. Every facet of physics works on gravity. So maybe you want to pull it back from the very raw scientific expression of, oh, there is literally zero gravity. Maybe instead of no gravity at all, it's more like no gravity as we know it. So, the idea that came to mind when I thought of no gravity is that maybe it's something a little bit like the astral plane from Dungeons and Dragons, where it's this kind of, well, the astral plane is a kind of dreamlike space where your movement is not dependent on your physical body. It's not physical movement. You move with the power of your thoughts. So maybe in this world, since there's no gravity as we know it, maybe gravity can be affected by conscious effort. Conscious effort. Yes. So coming back to the title, how do we use good questions to create good world building, right? Well, if you ask the right questions, then you can understand the core differences between the world that you've made and our world, and then drill down into the nuances. So, in a world with no gravity as we know it, where gravity is affected by conscious effort, then whatever entities live in that world, they can kind of create their own gravity in some sense, right? If you get enough people together, then maybe you can start making an asteroid, pulling in bits and pieces of like seeds and germs and water, and if you get even more people, it can grow and grow until it's planet-like, but not necessarily a planet as we know it. So some good questions to ask might be, well, I was answering one just there, actually. How do we get something familiar? How do we get planets in a world like this? Get planets again. Now, there's a balance here between having a unique, original idea, an original world, and also maintaining. Oh, thank you. Never surrender. there's a balance here between having your own unique original world, but also having familiar elements to something, because this is a very far out idea. Having familiar elements that an audience can ground themselves in. So we have this very out there idea, and then we try and bring it back down into how do we get planets or something like planets again. And that's what I was already answering with what I was thinking about, right? If people can use conscious effort to kind of manipulate gravity in small ways, then you get more people together, they pull in things and make a planet-like structure, right? Yeah. Another good question might be, what would the people look like? This is also very important because gravity affects the structure of a living organism and how it hypothetically evolved or was designed by whatever god in this fictional setting decided. What would people look like? Now, there are a few different ways you can answer this question. There are often a few different ways you can answer many of these questions, right? So, if you wanted to go with the more realistic results of having a whole reality that has never had gravity as we know it, then you'd probably have aliens, basically. Like, the humanoid body structure would not have been advantageous to a world like this, where gravity is very, very loosey-goosey, very zero G. But I think in order to still keep with that balance of maintaining a familiarity to things, that we could do something like maybe it's like humans, but just a little bit weirder, right? So, just pulling from my vestigial memory here, I've seen videos about astronauts who've lived in zero G for long periods of time, and the issues that has brought up for astronauts, right? They need exercise, physical therapy, because we were born to live in an environment at a certain gravity level. So our bones are denser than they would be for living creatures that were born with low gravity or even zero gravity. Scientists have theorized that if a human were to be born in a low gravity or zero gravity environment, that they would have these long, lanky bodies, low density, almost hollow-like bones, because you don't need things like that. Soft muscles that don't need to have denser fibers that maintain us, that resist the constant pull of gravity to the earth, right? So so my answer to what would people look like if there were no gravity, and these were the rules of the world, is maybe it's human-like people, and you could even just still call them humans, but they would be these tall, lanky, kind of ethereal-looking creatures, and that would present its own benefits and drawbacks, especially with the way that they can affect gravity on the day-to-day level, right? So these these different humans, they would have different challenges to us. So some questions you might ask after that is, well, how do they protect themselves? That's one good question. I'm not sure that that needs to be answered right now, because we're just going over the main bullet points of a world like this. But just for instance, these different kinds of humans, this different kind of human, they'd be much more fragile. But at the same time, we're living in a world where everything is three-dimensional. Everyone's able to fly, basically. So maybe the people would, when they fight each other, fight in this kind of dance-like, flying, floating way, where even one palpable hit could spell doom for your opponent. So lots of people would develop this very elegant flying combat style. And then that would change again once ranged weapons start being invented and get thrown into the mix. So it brings up a bunch of interesting conclusions that you might come to just with one simple change. Yeah. That is a very unique, original idea with a very core fundamental change. But if you take another approach, then you can have a more subtle difference between whatever your story setting is and what and the real world that the audience lives in, right? So maybe instead of a world with no gravity, maybe you do some kind of social change. I don't know. I'm just coming up with stuff on the fly. Maybe... See, I thought of this one beforehand, but I'm trying to think of something else just to give a smaller example. Change. I'm thinking something about money, perhaps. Like maybe people talk with money. Maybe money is power, right? Now, this doesn't necessarily have to be a fundamental evolutionary change like that one is. Maybe it's just the theme of your setting, right? So money is power. You've got some D&D-esque setting. So that's basically a kleptocracy, right? Where the person with the most money has the most influence over things that are going on. You might imagine that this is a campaign set in a single, very large city with lots of layers, deep history, a good reason why money is power in this city. Yeah. And then you ask questions about that one, right? So if money is power, then maybe why is money power in this setting would be a good question to answer, but it doesn't, the reason why doesn't often have implications on the story. It's just some nice flavor to help explain and justify the thematic overarching element of your setting, right? So if money is power, then what do warriors do in a setting like that? do. Because usually, in our real world, especially in a medieval setting, it's very often that physical might is power, or power is power. So what would warriors do in a situation where money is power? Well, the first answer, the first conclusion one might come to is that they become mercenaries, bodyguards. They are the ones who guard the money, or the guy who has the money. So, in this world, when people think of warriors, they think of mercenaries. How much is this going to cost me? Who is this guy being paid by, and how much? Yeah. Honestly, I think that's all I've got for this bonus topic. It's just the idea of asking yourself questions and trying to see if you can come up with good questions, and doing that until you come to a nice conclusion that you like, lots of answers that you like, or until you run out of questions to ask. It's a very simple way of doing something huge and complex, but also doing something smaller and more subtle. Yeah. How's my time? Half an hour. That's pretty good. Let's see. There we go. Yeah. I think that'll be all for today. Yeah. That's all I had for today. Thank you all for watching, and I hope this helped you. Next time, let's see. I think the next topic is on world building as well. I don't quite remember. But after that, it will be my best explanation of how I run my tabletop RPGs. I learned how to do it from this RPG called Fate, and it really helped. So I'm excited to share that with you guys on the next stream. But yeah, thanks for tuning in. See you all later.